And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. This one will be pretty short because things are pretty basic. So not very exciting as far as space weather goes. We do have some ionosphere anomalies. If that's bunker worthy for you, make sure you stay tuned for those. They come just before the bonus feature segment. Yeah, pretty uneventful. There was a pretty nice CME we'll check out here momentarily. Here's some solar imagery. Again, it's fairly pedestrian here for the past 24 hours. The time period depicted in that movie. There are some new sunspots that have risen in the southeast. If I had to guess, which I don't, I guess I suppose the most likely place to see a large solar flare would be down there in that southeastern quadrant, right by the southeastern limb there, as those sunspots might be magnetically complex, but the ones that I can already see, I know that they're not particularly magnetically complex. You're looking at SDO 171 plus 131. Part of the extreme ultraviolet spectrum. And make sure you press the like and subscribe buttons, by the way. Alrighty, there's the equatorial zoom. And yeah, once again, the story like yesterday, the main story here, and the main prediction is for CMEs in the Earth vicinity, because we've got a large number of large plasma filaments kind of pointed right at the Earth right now. That's a very bumpy solar corona. And of course, let's get to some stats here. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now at 165. So it didn't drop down as much as you may have thought it would, with only about 100 sunspots. We'll get to that in a minute as well. Sunspot number to dip here the next time Solon.info updates. Radial flux depicted by the black line there is 165. Will be the new update for that. There's the current numbers. And yeah, now NOAA is still considering the possibility of mild geomagnetic storm or geomagnetic unrest conditions tonight. But there's nothing major on the way. So, pretty clear as far as space weather goes. Looks like Stereo B is expecting something. Here's the European Space Agency's take on it. And they are expecting... could that be a coronal hole high-speed stream there in a few days? That's what it looks like to me. If you agree, disagree, or are indifferent, make sure you leave us a comment and tell us all about it. Tell us all about it. Like I say all the time, we encourage your rage comments. So as far as Earth's magnetosphere goes, things are pretty chill out there in space, so you shouldn't see too much exciting stuff going on in the 4 hours depicted right there. Same thing with the ground level. Not a whole lot of high likelihood of mid-latitude aurora viewing tonight or anything like that. It's probably going to be pretty geomagnetically calm. I don't really think there's going to be any geomagnetic storm or geomagnetic unrest tonight at all. I think it's going to be like KP2, KP1, something like that. So currently at KP1, and we've got a bunch of missing data on the solar wind there. Only the past, 4 or 5 hours? That's ACE, and Discover has the same thing. It must be the they. The infamous they. They're hiding the data from you folks because George Soros told them to do so, right? Because George Soros. It must be Soros. One of the favorite they thems. Yeah, those are some pronouns for you. The they. Ghost magnetometers are smooth. Again, it's geomagnetically calm. Heliosphere magnetism. Is the North Pole current sheet here yet? The North Pole magnetic sector? Nope. Like we said yesterday, the sector boundary crossing is very close by, so there is a current sheet approaching. Once Earth is solidly in the North Pole sector, the current sheet will be headed out towards Stereo A, depicted by that little satellite icon there to the right of the Earth. Stereo B would be the one to the left. Here's our line of sight field plot. And again, North Pole sector coming, so you may see some changes in the B field there depicted in the blue lines. Here's our coronal hole field plot. And yeah, we've got a mixed bag of holes, coronal holes. And of course, during the time of the North Pole magnetic sector, you can expect North Pole coronal holes to be facing Earth. What you can't expect is for them to cause earthquakes, because they're not even properly correlated with earthquakes. So there's that. So sunspot number here is at about, 102? 102, we'll say the sunspot number is. Flare likelihood, not high. But again, if I had to guess, I would say at the southeastern limb, as sunspot 3709 isn't looking particularly exciting. There's our SDO. Let me see something here. There's our SDO continuum. And there's a colorized magnetogram. There was a little bit of sunspot growth there, but mainly just sunspots rising. So we saw some degradation here, and at least 2 new sunspot groups rising here in the southeast. So for another 24 hours, there'll be a slightly increased likelihood of them producing slightly larger flares due to their proximity to the limb. Next is our energetic particles and solar flares. Proton flux here slowly making its way back to baseline levels. We did see a pretty decent proton-induced series of polar radio blackouts. That's the 7-day graph as measured by the GOES 18. As far as flares, no M-class intensifications even, only C-class. 2 of those were almost M-class. Let's take a look at the view from SDO. There's 94 plus 131 angstroms. Now, there was an event on the far side. It was accompanied by a pretty massive outflow and coronal mass ejection. We don't see any plasma motions on the Earth side, and we'll show you that momentarily. Also a comet showing up. So first, a couple more stats here, like the location of items in the solar system. As I guess you could say, space weather. I don't know. It's not really space weather per se. I mean, if you're mad that we have the planet forecast segment, let us know in the comments if you're mad about it. Yeah, it's not really space weather. There's no physics to suggest that it's space weather, the location of planets. However, we'll show the forecast anyway. As people, this is the part where we show CME, so we want people to be oriented, so they know the way things are moving throughout space. Welcome to space. Here's your 1-week forecast. That's where things will be on the 18th. As summer speeds toward us in the northern hemisphere. Here is the sun and Jupiter and Mercury and all headed toward the horizon. That's what's going on overhead Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Cycling Mecca. Of course, as you can see, there are some jerseys behind me back here. So, yeah, it's So yeah, moving on to CMEs here in just a moment. First, our astronomy photo of the day. This one is an illumination nebula, as we've got ultraviolet light and exciting some dusty, gassy dust. Gassy, dusty, dusty, gassy dust. Gassy dust. Stars like Rho Ophiuchi and, of course, Antares. So they're brightening up the chemicals in there and causing them to emit. Oh, here, I'll show you. There you go. So there's your reflection nebula, that's what it's called. And then the two extremely bright stars lighting them up, apod.nasa.gov. So here you'll see a comet diving in there just after a CME. Very early this morning, in fact, a little bit before midnight, there was a CME there. It was not from the Earth side of the solar disk. So here we've paused this one just because of the fantastic imagery. And yeah, so that's what was going on at about 4 o'clock this morning. And that is all far side plasma, unfortunately, folks. But great view of that comet. Check it out. Here it is on LASCO C2. So, pretty cool fireworks show there, but not really anything exciting for seeing stuff like the aurora on Earth. Here's what Stereo A had to see. And there you go. There's that CME from Stereo A's perspective. There's today. And as you can see, there was a continuing outflow there, too. So that's sort of an ongoing thing. It has to do with that active series of sunspots that just set down there in the southeast. And you can see the comet a little bit right over here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is some slight view of that comet there. I think so. Yep, it looks like it. Not half bad. So, our custom views, of course. There you go. That's better than bad. It's good. Dag. You've got Venus and Mercury there in the images. Very nice. Very nice. Here's a little closer view. How you like them apples? Dag. And it's time for bonus features. First, filaments. Let me go back to... There we go. That's a good one. Lots of filaments on the Earth side of the disk, like I said earlier. And, yeah, there they are from Big Bear. And some of these are worthy of names. So I would highly recommend naming this one. This one right here should be named the Larry David filament. Well, I don't know. But it's... Hit us up on Twitter, follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament, and, you know, there's a few that could use names over here. This one here, this one, you could even say that that's two. That does look like two separate filaments. This massive one down here, a bunch up here in the northeast, it's filaments, filaments, filaments. If you're wondering wherefore aren't they filaments, it's because magnetic fields are suspending massive portions of plasma out into space, tens or even hundreds of thousands of kilometers, defying gravity. And there are the past couple of hours. That's the GO 16 SUVI. And, yeah, let's blast through bonus features and get this thing onto your screens. So there's satellite charging hazards. We ain't got none. Electron flux is low, as forecast yesterday. There's NOAA over-forecasting the electron flux, as we called on yesterday's video. Here is the ionosphere. We show this little map here to show people the temperature inversions and the chemical concentrations and the penetration of electromagnetic spectra. Here are the ionosonde images in a convenient animation for the past day, courtesy of Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And there are some anomalies there, but we did have some mild CME impacts yesterday, so it's not really all that surprising. I think things will be simmering down toward the end. Let's take one more look at that. I'll take one more look at it. You decide whether or not you want to. I don't care. And here's the anomalygram depicting anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. And yes, it does indeed look like the South Atlantic anomaly has moved once again. Now, we documented it moving before. That was a couple years ago. It moved into the Pacific Ocean. and it seemed like nobody really noticed or cared or even realized that it was a thing. Now it looks like it's moved to the coast, right at the 45-degree longitude line there, 45-degree west longitude. The South Atlantic anomaly has moved from the center of the South American continent to the coast. So, I mean, there it is. Facts are facts. That's where it is. Does it mean the apocalypse? Well, absolutely not. But if you want to be spooked of something, there you go. The South Atlantic anomaly has moved, folks. Oh, noes. Oh, noes. Get in your bunkers. By the way, this is depicting the total electron content anomaly and the total electron content itself. Over there on the left side, that's literally the number of free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. Hence, it will show you the likely places for errors. Usable frequency on the right. Radio operators are going to know what that means anyway. We'll close out with the latest. There we are. And yeah, can we have any analysis of these new sunspots? They're looking pretty alpha class to me. What say you? Let us know in the comments. So they're both beta class. All right, so that's a good sign if you're hoping for some flares. So that's what's going on. The story remains filaments. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon here at the Smash News Network. Least busted name of news. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And until next time, may that solar wind be at your back. While I go back to the bunker. Whoa.